welcome back to my channel, guys. Bella here. This video is called My First Time, and no, it's not what you're thinking. This is a video, I've seen it floating around on YouTube. It's called My First Time tag video. So basically, it's a video about all my firsts. I will start with my very first crush. My very first crush was probably when I was in like the 2nd or 3rd grade, and there was a guy in my class named Tim, and I won't say last names because if he was watching that would be awkward. All the girls had a crush on him. He was like the coolest kid in like 2nd grade or whatever it was. So that was my first crush. My first kiss was whenever I was 15 and I was over at my best friend Amy's house. These boys that she knew had been coming over and hanging out with us like all week long, and I was sitting down on the front porch this one night, and this one guy, Ricky, came up and he sat down next to me and we were talking. He was kind of being flirty with me and whatnot, and all of a sudden he just leaned in and planted one on me. I was like so embarrassed, and I just got red in my face and I didn't really know what to do, so I just basically got up and walked away. That was my logic. Yeah, so then he ended up actually becoming my first boyfriend after the awkwardness of that night. We started hanging out a lot, and then he actually became my first boyfriend. The first word I ever spoke was Papa. That is probably because my grandparents raised me. I was his little girl, so, you know, he was like my dad. So that was my very first word. My first pet was a pug. Her name was Shadow. I got her when I was 15 years old, and I had her for like, I don't know, like 10 years. She was awesome. She could talk, she could say mama, and I love you. She could even say fuck you, and she'd put her little front paws together if I tell her to pray, like for a treat, and she'd like put her feet together and shake her head yes. She was like the smartest dog ever, so I still miss her so much. My first car was a Mitsubishi Eclipse, and it was silver, and I got it when I turned 19, and I got it for my graduation present. So that was an awesome car. My first job was at a place in Albuquerque, New Mexico called The County Line, and it was a barbecue place, which I love barbecue, so that was my first job. My very first boyfriend, this is retarded, but I talked to my mom about it. My very first boyfriend, and I put that in quotes, was this little boy named Ryan, and he used to live up the street from me in my childhood home. I was 5 years old, and he used to walk down the block, and he'd come over and play with me in the afternoon at my house, and my mom would like, I don't know if she was babysitting for the neighbors or what, but he would come over like every day. We'd hang out in the backyard and play, and we'd play house and do all this shit, and like, I still remember this to this day. One afternoon we were out there playing and we got really quiet, and my mom got worried and she was like, what the hell's going on? So she comes out there and she comes out to the back door and she looks, and me and Ryan are sitting on the porch. Apparently we were sitting there eating the dog food out of the bowl. So apparently kibble is awesome in a 5-year-old's world. So yeah, that was my first boyfriend ever. I think my mom even said that whenever we started kindergarten, that he went to the same school as me and he would carry my books in every morning. Like, it was totally cute. My very first friend ever, her name was Sandy. She was a redhead. She was just like the coolest person ever to hang out with, so I just love her. And I'm still actually friends with her on Facebook. So I've been friends with her for like all my life. It's pretty cool. Then we have my very first apartment was at this place in Amarillo, Texas called Wellington Manor, and I thought like that was the coolest shit because I finally moved out and got my own place and paid my own bills and had my own job, and it was awesome. So that was cool. My very first video game system I ever had was an Atari. My very first video I ever made on YouTube was Black Ops 2 Queen of Hearts comm. It was a commentary, and I will show you guys that now.
And they'll kind of get your back. If they see that you're getting some feed there, they'll kind of hold off on getting a kill or something so that you can get what you're getting and get your clip. But when you're rocking solo pants like I am, and you have to watch your own ass, there's nobody there to play with you and pay attention to what you're doing. It's not like it's a bad thing. I mean, it sucks for me, but these guys are in.
So yeah, that was just a little clip of it, but that was my very first video on YouTube. My very first tweet is right here on the screen. And yeah, this Twitter was originally for my clan that I started called Venom. Whenever I ended that team and put it on break or whatever you want to call it, it then became my personal Twitter, which brings me to my first clan, which was Venom Gaming, and I am the founder of that. My first toy that I ever had was a teddy bear, which my mom still has and will not let me have it because she doesn't want it to get lost. The very first book I ever read in my life was in middle school, and it was called Night, and it was a book about like the Holocaust, and I'll put a picture of it here on the screen. My very first YouTuber that I ever met in person was MizzGrizz, who is actually now my husband. The very first gamer tag I ever had was Shy13. And I don't know why I had the 13. I guess back then I thought it was my lucky number. But I guess that didn't work out because then I became Bella. Something Bella, always something Bella. And then MizzGrizz, obviously. Here is my very first selfie that I ever took of myself. And my very first love, honestly, you guys aren't going to believe this, but honestly, my very first true love is my husband. And I had other relationships in the past, and I really thought that I loved them and everything, but I never really knew what being in love was like until I got together with my husband and we fell in love and all that stuff. He has been just amazing with me, with the kids, everything, and he's just the best person I've ever known. So he is my first love. My very first computer was a Dell PC, and that shit was awesome back in the day. My very first trip that I ever took was to San Antonio, Texas, to SeaWorld, where I got to pet and kiss a dolphin on the mouth. That was awesome. My very first major boo-boo that I ever got was when I was a first grader. We went on a field trip to the zoo, and there was like this, it was in the shape of a teepee. It was all bars, and then you could go up to the top and slide down like this center pole. When I got like halfway up, I thought I'd be cool and not go all the way to the top, and I thought I would just like jump from the mid to the center pole and slide down it like I was trying to do like some jungle shit. I did hit the pole, however, I didn't like grab onto it. I just jumped and it like slammed into my chest. My face was like sideways, and I slid down the pole without actually holding on. It like knocked the wind out of me, so I went and sat down on a bench, and all of a sudden I saw blood dripping down on my lap, and I couldn't figure out where I was bleeding from. And the teacher that was there, she was checking my head and everything, and my ear, I actually almost cut my entire ear off, and I guess it was in shock because of the pain or something, and it was just like hanging off, and it's so disgusting. They had to like rush me to the emergency room where I got my very first stitches, and it took like 2 doctors and 3 nurses to hold me down. As a first grader, I was freaking the fuck out. So yeah. My very first cell phone I ever had was a Motorola flip phone, which if you know anything about that shit was awesome back in the day. My very first tattoo is on my right thigh, and it's a butterfly. My very first piercing, aside from my ears, was my tongue, which I have since then removed. My very first alcoholic beverage was champagne at a wedding that I went to when I was 13. My very first sport that I ever played was softball, which I happened to be a boss at. So yeah, that's all my first that I want to share with you guys today. If you guys want to see any more videos like this from me, please leave some comments or questions in the comment section below, and I maybe could do like a part 2 to this. I'll talk to you guys later.